Disclaimer. This story is entirely fictional. It is inspired by public figures but does not depict real events, conversations, or actions. The Spanish royal family has long been associated with discipline, tradition, and duty. Every public appearance is carefully planned, every speech measured, and every royal responsibility carries centuries of expectation. But what if one day the future queen decided that some traditions deserve to be challenged? What if Princess Leonor quietly crossed lines no heir was ever expected to cross? And what if those decisions sparked the biggest disagreement King Felipe had ever faced as a father and a monarch? This is that fictional story. The morning began like every other day inside the palace. Staff members prepared schedules. Security officers reviewed the day's movements. Advisors organized official documents. King Felipe was already working through state papers while expecting another ordinary day. But shortly after breakfast, one of his senior aides entered his office with visible concern. "Your Majesty, there has been an unexpected development." Felipe looked up. "What happened?" "The princess has altered today's schedule without approval." The king frowned. "Altered it how?" Instead of attending a carefully planned ceremonial event, Leonor had quietly arranged a visit to a small rural community that had not appeared on any official calendar. No television cameras. No prepared speeches. No formal reception. Just ordinary citizens. The king immediately requested more information. As details continued arriving, it became clear this wasn't an accident. Leonor had planned everything herself. Across Spain, local residents were shocked when the royal convoy arrived. There was no grand announcement. No elaborate security display. Princess Leonor simply stepped out of the vehicle wearing simple clothing instead of elaborate royal attire. She greeted shop owners. She visited schools. She spoke with elderly residents. She listened far more than she talked. People were surprised. Many admitted they had never imagined meeting the future queen without palace ceremony surrounding her. Leonor spent hours asking questions. "What concerns you most? What would you change? What do young people here dream about?" The conversations were honest, sometimes emotional, sometimes uncomfortable, but always genuine. Inside the palace, advisors became increasingly nervous. One senior official warned the king, "Your Majesty, this creates a difficult precedent." Another added, "If future engagements begin changing without approval, palace coordination becomes impossible." Felipe understood their concern. Royal schedules existed for a reason. Security, diplomacy, protocol, every movement involved hundreds of people. Ignoring those procedures could create unnecessary risks. Yet another part of him wondered why Leonor had chosen this path. Late that evening, Leonor finally returned. The atmosphere inside the palace had completely changed. Everyone knew a serious conversation was waiting. She walked toward her father's private office. The doors closed. Silence filled the room. King Felipe stood beside the window before turning toward his daughter. "Would you like to explain today?" Leonor remained calm. "I wanted to hear people without prepared speeches." "You changed official plans." "Yes." "You ignored palace procedures." "Yes." "You created unnecessary concern." "I understand." The king's voice remained controlled. "Why?" Leonor paused. Then she answered honestly, "Because sometimes people speak differently when they believe nobody is watching." Felipe remained silent. Leonor continued, "I've attended ceremonies. I've delivered speeches. I've represented the crown. But today I simply listened." The king folded his hands. "That is admirable. Then why are you upset?" "Because responsibility is bigger than good intentions." Leonor nodded. "I know. No, I don't think you fully do." Felipe walked slowly across the room. "When I became king, I also wanted to change many things." Leonor listened carefully. "I believed enthusiasm alone could solve problems. But experience taught me something." "What?" "Every action taken by a monarch carries consequences that are invisible at first." He looked directly at her. "You see conversations. I must also see security. You see compassion. I must also see stability. You see today. I must think about decades." Leonor understood, but she wasn't convinced. "Does that mean nothing should ever change?" Felipe smiled slightly. "No. Then what does it mean?" "It means change must protect the institution while serving the people." She thought quietly. "And if the institution needs to evolve?" The king answered almost immediately. "Then it must evolve wisely." Days passed. The disagreement became the subject of private palace discussion. Some advisors believed Leonor had acted irresponsibly. Others quietly admired her courage. Queen Letizia watched everything carefully. One evening she invited Leonor to join her in the palace gardens. "You've been thinking." Leonor smiled. Is it that obvious? A mother notices. Leonor admitted something she hadn't shared with anyone else. I don't want to become a queen who only reads prepared speeches. Letizia nodded. Neither does your father. Leonor looked surprised. But he opposed me. He opposed your method, not your heart. Those words stayed with Leonor. She began reflecting on the difference between purpose and process. Perhaps both mattered. Perhaps leadership required listening and patience. Several weeks later another opportunity appeared. This time Leonor approached her father first. I have an idea. Felipe looked interested. I'm listening. I'd like to visit several communities that rarely receive royal attention. The king waited. But this time, she smiled. We'll plan it together. Felipe couldn't hide a small smile. What changed? I realized something. What? If I truly want lasting change, I need people working with me, not against me. The king nodded proudly. That's leadership. Together they redesigned the visit. Security remained strong. Protocol was respected. But the conversations became far more personal than traditional royal events. Residents appreciated the effort. Officials appreciated the organization. Leonor appreciated that meaningful conversations were still possible. The visit became one of the most positively received engagements of the year. Afterward, Felipe invited Leonor back into his office. This worked well. She smiled. It did. You didn't give up your idea. No, but you accepted guidance. I did. Felipe looked thoughtful. You know, when I was younger, I probably would have made the same mistake. Leonor laughed softly. So I inherited your stubbornness. I'm afraid so. Both laughed together. The tension that had once filled the room had disappeared. Months later, palace staff noticed something different. Leonor still asked difficult questions. She still wanted ordinary citizens to be heard. She still looked for new ways to connect with Spain. But now she also understood why preparation mattered. Why institutions moved carefully. Why patience often produced stronger results than impulsive decisions. Likewise, Felipe had learned something. The next generation wasn't trying to reject tradition. It simply wanted to ensure tradition remained meaningful. One evening, standing on a palace balcony overlooking Madrid, father and daughter watched the sunset. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally Felipe broke the silence. You'll do things differently someday. Leonor nodded. I probably will. Good. She looked at him. Really, every generation should leave the crown stronger than it found it. And if people disagree with my choices, they will. What then? Felipe smiled. Listen carefully, lead humbly, and never forget who you serve. Leonor looked across the city. I won't. The future would undoubtedly bring more disagreements. More difficult decisions. More moments where tradition and change would collide. But one thing had become certain. Their greatest strength wasn't that they always agreed. It was that they never stopped listening to each other. And perhaps, in the end, that would become the greatest lesson of all. The end.